and welcome to my June TBR video. Sometimes my TBR videos can feel a little bit like I'm asking for the moon. It's every single book that I think I might get to in the month, and sometimes that's good. But lately I've been feeling like my stack of books to read each month is this free-for-all. What I've tried to do this month is really narrow down what I am reading, because I've committed to reading them with friends, what I'm reading for book club, what I want to get to personally, and then leave room for maybe one or two that I would like to get to if I have the time. I'm keeping it kind of small this month with just 10 options for me to read. It is a scorcher today. So I am so happy that the mint is finally ready to make meadow tea with and to be able to have a nice, cool, and refreshing drink option. Don't get me wrong, I love my hot black tea, but in the afternoons in the summer, for me, mint tea is where it's at. And as a side note, meadow tea in our area, I think people add sugar to it. In our family, we don't add sugar to it. It's very simple. It's boiled water, mint leaves, let it steep, let it cool, put some ice cubes in it, and you're good to go. All right, so I am going to start with the books that I have committed to reading to other people. Friends, buddy reads. I have an author whose debut novel is coming out in June that I have committed to read and review. So we're going to start with those. So the first one, I am so excited to say I am reading with a dear friend of mine. She and I have been reading books together for over 10 years. We determine how much we're going to read each week, and then we vox each other messages, and we've, like I said, have been doing that for 10 years. So every week, we rarely miss a week. Normally, we read nonfiction together, but for the summer, we like lighter reads, and that means fiction. So I suggested to her that we read Miss Bunkle's book because I have not read it yet. I've heard so many fantastic things about it, and I am really looking forward to reading this with her. We have Barbara Bunkle. She is kind of down on her luck. She really needs income. So she does what Anne did, which was to write a book about what she knows, per Gilbert. And for Barbara, this is a little town in England called Silverstream. So this little village she knows really well. It turns out the book is a hit. And Barbara is at that point really glad that she had used pseudonyms for all of the people in the village, because now she's a little concerned that like everybody's going to know she's written about them. But I think what ends up happening is life starts imitating art. So I'm not sure if that means that the things she wrote about in the book were a little bit fabricated and now they're coming out, or what. But I'm excited. We are going to read this very slowly. I know that might be a challenge. I might feel like, oh, I want to get ahead. But again, with my friend, we've been doing this a long time. We are both homeschool mothers. And so even though it's summer, there's a lot that happens in the summer for each of us. And so going slow with this is exactly what the doctor ordered. So we will be reading Miss Bunkle's book. And I think we're going to read it over 2 months of June and July. Another book that I am going to be reading over the month of June and July is The Thornbirds by Colleen McCullough. I have read this. It has been a long time. I was actually, as I was preparing for this video, trying to think how many years has it been. So I know I read Gone with the Wind first, and that was about 30 years ago. So it's probably been 25 years since I read The Thornbirds. I remember kind of the vibe of it, this like hot Australian outback. I remember Maggie Cleary and how much I loved her. I remember a theme of unrequited love in there, but that's all I remember. So this is going to feel very fresh. As I mentioned, I will be reading this also through June and July. I'm reading this with 4 of my reading buddy lady friends. And I'm really excited about that. There are 7 sections, and so we're just going to read 1 section each week, so it'll take about 7 weeks. And again, same thing, we'll just vox each other our thoughts. So I am so excited, and I'm hoping that I can then watch the series that I think I watched bits and pieces of growing up, but I don't remember watching the whole thing through and through. So I will probably try to do that when I'm done with reading the book. And I did just want to mention that I have 2 copies of The Thornbirds. I have my reading copy, which is this one. And then I found this beautiful, I think it's a book club edition version in a used, library used bookstore in the basement. It was like dark and I was like trying to see and I was like, is that the Thornbirds? And I love this cover so very much. So this is my sit on the shelf and be admired copy. This is the copy I will read. The first one that I read was the paperback copy, which at this point I'm not sure if I found it used, I might grab it too. Is that greedy of me? I really remember this book being so formative and just feel an attachment to the paperback version since that's what I first read it on. And then next we have the Cozy Reader Book Club choice, which is Alexander McCall Smith's The Number One Ladies Detective Agency. Whew, that's a mouthful. We are going to be reading the first one. This follows Ma Ramatswe. I listened to this years ago. I remembered enjoying it. I have not continued the series. I actually have found a BBC full cast dramatic version of this audiobook that is offered at my library. So I have that on hold and I will listen to this again. I loved listening to it the first time. I'll see how the full cast goes. If it's too chaotic, I can always revert back to the original version. I will say someone in our last Cozy Reader Book Club session mentioned that we should warn everyone about trigger warnings. Just as with anything in life, if you have specific triggers that you are worried about, then you definitely want to use Storygraph or Goodreads to kind of type in keywords to see if other people's reviews alert you to those trigger warnings. I think the trigger warnings that this person was referring to is marital abuse. And Jen and I did read the specific passages that were an issue. And we both feel like while it's obvious what's happening, it is not like graphic and explicit. All of that to say, I am looking forward to reading this again. And I'm really hopeful that I can stick with it. There's so many series that I really need to continue on. Really need to do is create a list, but I feel like that would be kind of traumatizing to see my actual list of all of the series I need to continue. But I'm hoping that this will get me back into it and I will want to continue the series. All right, next I am going to read Beaumont Cottage. This is by Andrea Tarwater. So this is on my Kindle. Andrea is a bookseller that I have been following for a very long time. She sells these beautiful vintage books. She has a book that is coming out this month, and she sent me a message and asked if I would read an e-arc of it and review it. And so I told her that I would. And so I've got Beaumont Cottage at the top of the list that I need to read because she needs it read earlier in the month. So you will be hearing more about that from me. I don't know that much about it. I do know that she very much loves Anne of Green Gables, and so I expect this to have an Anne of Green Gables flair. She also really loves Nancy Drew, and I think Nancy Drew played a big part in her desire to kind of write this mystery. So in this, I believe our main character inherits Beaumont Cottage from her mother. But I don't think she was necessarily aware of its existence, or there's some mystery behind the cottage and how it is involved in our main character's life. I also know that Andrea is very much, again, as I mentioned, she's a vintage bookseller. So she loves older, wholesome, days gone by, era gone by, bygone days kind of writing. And so I fully expect that to be in this as well. The next book that I'm going to share that's on my Kindle is one that I don't have to read, but that I want to. This is O. Douglas's next book in the Penny Plain series. So this is called the Priorsford novel. So I don't want to give away too much because if you haven't read Penny Plain, there will be spoilers if you read the second one or hear about it before you've read the first one. But I'm excited to get back to Jean and her village life and all of the updates that have happened through the Penny Plain novel. You can find O. Douglas's novels in like packages on Kindle, so you should be able to find Penny Plain that way. It was the first book in our Cozy Reader Book Club meetings for 2026, and it might so far be my favorite that we have read for the book club. It was so fantastically cozy and just such a great read, especially I feel like during the winter season. So it was great. I believe that this is set in June and in the summer. So again, it's a perfect time for me to pick it up. And I will be doing better at kind of checking off continuing on in a series that I know that I love. So I will be really prioritizing continuing in O. Douglas's series with the Priorsford novel. Next one that I really want to prioritize is A Tangled Web. This is by L.M. Montgomery. I'm really hoping that this is more of an adult novel, more like The Blue Castle. If it's more coming of age and YA like Emily or Anne, then that's, obviously I would love it. But I do really love The Blue Castle, and I'm fascinated by L.M. Montgomery's more adult works. So in this, we have the Darks and the Penhallows. They've been marrying each other. It says 60 Darks and 60 Penhallows have married each other. But there's been a lot of infighting and feuding, as is the case with L.M. Montgomery's novels. The matriarch, who is described as eccentric, she passes away. And with that, she has left this family heirloom of the brown jug. There's apparently a legend that goes along with it. We've got a whole cast of characters in here. We have Gay Penhallow, we've got Noel Gibson, we've got Peter Penhallow, Donna. They've hated each other since childhood, but the jug brings them back together. We have Terrible Secrets. We also have the unforgettable Moon Man, who possesses the mysterious gift of second sight. So all of the things that I love about L.M. Montgomery are in this. I don't know if this is specifically set in summer. I feel like it feels a little bit more gothic in its flavor, but the cover is very much summery, and so I wanted to read it. I'm also really intrigued by this. I haven't heard a lot about it, so I'm excited to have this at the top of my reading list. Next, I would like to read Marjorie Sharp's The Nutmeg Tree. This is also a movie of Julia Misbehaves. Elizabeth Taylor is in this movie. She plays the young daughter. So again, similar to the Thornbirds, my goal is I read this and then hopefully watch the movie. I don't know if The Nutmeg Tree is Marjorie Sharp's like most popular or most well-loved book, but I found this beautiful vintage copy with this lovely dust jacket and thought I couldn't really resist. And this is set in the summer. So in this, we have Julia, hence the title of the movie, Julia Misbehaves. Julia is a mother. I believe that she has given up raising her daughter, Susan, to her in-laws when her husband passes away in the war. I'm not sure kind of how all that happens, but I do know that her husband's family is wealthy, and so maybe she just thought that Susan would be, better suited to be raised in a wealthier family. But Susan has reached out to her mother and said, I would like to marry someone. I need you to come over to our summer villa, I think it's in France, and convince Susan's grandparents, Julia's in-laws, that the match is palatable and that Julia agrees. So I love the idea of a summer setting in Europe, in a village. And I also love that in one of the descriptions I read about this, it talks about madcap situations. And that just seems like a really fun, light summer read option. Let's take a break. I am going to sip some cool mint tea. It is so hot today. Okay, the next book that I want to get to is Summer Pudding. This is by Susan Scarlett, who is actually Noel Streatfeild, who wrote the Shoes book. If you have watched You've Got Mail, I love Noel Streatfeild. I've been on a kick to read more of her middle grade, but I have not read much of her adult books. I read Pirouette for the Cozy Reader Book Club, and really, it was sort of like universal. We did not enjoy it. So I am hopeful that continuing on and reading Summer Pudding will help kind of make the adult romances that she wrote have a, little bit better flavor, I guess, than Pirouette was. So this is set after the bombings in London. So Janet had been bombed out of her job in London office and comes to the village of Worsingford. Surely a case of going from bad to Worsingford. Ha. Where her self-absorbed sister Sheila and their mother Maggie are weathering the war. So we've got her mother has a bad heart, but Sheila, her sister, is wanting to be a film star. Then we've got Donald, a handsome young widower, and his adorable daughter. Then we've got Barbara, a charming girl whose love is on the way to active service, and Barbara's curmudgeonly but likable old father, a retired colonel, not to mention the ghosts in his house. There should be happy endings for all, but Donald's possessive young housekeeper and a series of misunderstandings precipitated by Sheila's selfishness will have to be dealt with first. This is a furrowed middlebrow book published by Dean Street Press. I love the cover so very much. I love that they add information in the introduction in their books so that you really can just have a better understanding of what's going on as these books have been published. And so I'm excited to read it. I don't know if it's actually set in the summer, but it says Summer Pudding, so we're going with summer. Next, we've got the last book in the Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. This will be another book that, if I get this done, again, it's on the priority list, will mean that I have finished this series. I've loved it so much. We've got Newbery medals. I think there are some Newbery honors in there as well. I love this crazy cover. So this is like Arthurian-inspired Welsh and English folklore, all intermixed. I recently recommended the first book in this series for a summer recommendation video. So if you like fantasy, especially Arthurian inspired fantasy that is middle grade, and even if you're not a big fan of middle grade, I feel like these books work for any age, but I love this series so much. So it's set in our world, but we really learn that there are dark forces at work that are fighting against the light. And there's a lot of magic in here and a lot of just beautiful experiences of children kind of bonding together and fighting for good. And it's just lovely. I am hoping for a satisfying conclusion to this series and am determined to finish this series at this point, because this is actually set at the first chapter. I love how Susan Cooper does that. She has these set throughout the whole year. So like if you start the first one now, you really could like see how you could read it throughout the year depending on the time frame of the books. But this one starts at Midsummer's Eve, which is perfect for a June read. So lastly, I had full intentions to read Kin for the Mayflowers readathon this year because of the flowers on the cover, but I decided that I wanted to read this as an audiobook. And by the time I got into the system for putting a hold on it in the library, I had a long enough wait that it is going to come available to me in June. And so at that point, I am going to listen to Kin and get this one read for June as well. So you can always go back to my May TBR video to hear more about it, but it's basically, I believe, a mother-daughter relationship in the South. I am so excited to read it. Again, it's one of those books where I don't think it's going to be heartwarming or cozy, but I do think that it is going to be meaningful and poignant and very thought-provoking. So I really am going to get to Kin. It's coming up on my Libby hold, so that will happen as well. So these are the 10 books that I am really prioritizing for the month of June. Does it mean that I might not get to all of these? Yes. Does it mean that I might pick something else up? Yes, of course, but these are the books that I really do want to prioritize and get through in the month of June. So I would love to hear what you are reading in June, and let me know any of the thoughts that you have if you've read any of these books that I've mentioned, or some of them are also on your TBR. I would love to know. So as always, you guys, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.